This is an open letter for Mr. Tim Robbins. Uh, Hello, sir. How are you? Hope everything is fine. We saw your interview on with Mr. Tucker Carlson. We enjoyed it. Thank you very much. However, during most of the interview, I was cringing a little bit because here's the thing. It seems like it felt like your advice, as usual, get going, row faster. You will get there. Just row, motherfucker. Just row. That's basically your advice. And motivational advice, or whatever you guys call it, we heard it. I heard it, and it was as usual interesting. However, I'm not sure if it's appropriate, logical anymore, at least in 21st century of your time on earth since your last Lord and Savior. It's just, let's take one example for one. Let's start from the part where you insist that the jobs in McDonald's or Burger King, those jobs are, for entering into a workforce. And those shouldn't be the goal. Those jobs shouldn't be lifelong jobs. And for entering into a workforce as beginner jobs, those are great. Everybody should do them, and move on, move higher and higher. It just doesn't work like that. I just read a story. Homeboy was, employed by Burger King for 27 years. It just doesn't work like that. You need to have there are three aptitudes: the cognitive aptitudes, the physical aptitude, and the emotional aptitude. And of these three, you need to have a substantial amount of cognitive aptitude to be moved from there. What if you don't? It's not your fault. You didn't commit a crime that you don't have Tim Robbins' brain. It shouldn't be a crime on your planet not to have Tim Robbins' brain, at least not amongst the enlightened societies. Because if he doesn't have Tim Robbins' brain, but he has twice Tim Robbins' physical aptitude, and three times Tim Robbins' emotional aptitude. So I'm just saying, we all have if we consider each human being 100%, there are three different percentage. There are three different aptitudes that can have different percentage within this 100%. So if Tim Robbins is 60% cognitive aptitude, that only leaves 20% for physical and 20% for emotional aptitude. Tim Robbins is not the Superman. Neither is anybody else on your planet. If you have more of one, you have less of the others. If you have more of two, you have the less of the third one. There is no such thing as the Ubermensch. Here's the thing. Uh, and then you build on this. That okay, after you start working in McDonald's, then you have to know that you should be, if you invest, $300 a month in stock or in the stock market, and then you don't touch it for 25 years, 30 years, or until your retirement, then you're going to be retired with a boatload of money. Good for you to know that. Good for you to inform everybody of that. But you do understand that knowing that and being able to execute that has a lot to do with Delayed pleasure, delayed pleasure. Delayed pleasure is one of those first cognitive tests that they perform in order to determine the cognitive power of a toddler or a 5 year old or a 2 year old. We say, okay, don't touch this food. We go out the room. By the time we come back, if you haven't touched the food, we give you twice as much. That delayed pleasure is not conducted on a 50-year-old, it's conducted on a 5 year old. You see what I'm saying? And based on that means that cognitive power can be determined from age 5. So those who have it, yes, they can do $300 a month, but set aside $300 a month to hopefully one day become a millionaire or die before becoming a millionaire. But the point is this, that it's a cognitive thing. Delayed pleasure is something that comes from having a certain level of cognitive power. What if it's not there? What if it's not there? The concept of delayed pleasure is not palpable in 50% of society. So it's not measurable. The concept of delayed pleasure is not enough to be measurable in 50% of the society. So now what? Do the 50% of society have to wait for you to donate free meals to them? Beg you, kiss your nuts to provide them with free meals when you learn that it gives you some pleasure giving free meals? We have to wait as a society, through the ages. We have to wait until Mr. Tim Robbins comes to this enlightenment that giving free meals gives him pleasure. So now that he has some money, he will give some free meals so he can draw some kind of pleasure from it. Are you fucking kidding me? Here's to you, Mr. Robbins. Salute. Running of a society should not be based on we have to wait until Tim Robbins reaches that level of drawing pleasure from giving food to people who don't have access to food. Why don't they have access to food? Because they weren't given enough cognitive oomph to understand the concept of delayed pleasure, so they haven't put money aside, or they not having that cognitive oomph means they have to work for McDonald's probably for 27 years or Burger King's for 20. You see, the same problem not having the will, not having the understanding of putting $300 a month aside. The same problem that comes, the same issue that causes that is the same issue that keeps the guy for 27 years working for McDonald's, Burger King. You see what I'm saying? But you keep circling the issue. You're saying that if I inform them well enough, they can all become Tim Robbins. Fuck you. What the fuck are you talking about? That's not the case. And if you want to run a functioning society, you cannot base the understanding on the same understanding that a Roman, ramming ship had. That understanding the Romans had with the ramming ship was that row faster, so we can ram them other motherfucking ship and we can so our king can win the war. Now you motherfuckers, if you're not rowing fast enough, I'm sorry, we're gonna throw you in the ocean. You see what I'm saying? this is your concept. This is what you're playing with. This is what your understanding is. Or row faster, or you're going to be dependent on Tim Robbins handing out food. Well, the motherfucker can't row faster. You don't have jobs that pay well for physical aptitude. And again, your message is more out of style because more and more your cognitive jobs are also going to go to AI. I mean, I'm sure an AI will make, a much better motivational speaker than you, an AI. And the AI doesn't have to color his hair. You see what I'm saying? It, it, it's the idea that, yeah, I made it, you can also make it. No, you said it yourself with regards to, private equity, this thing you guys have in capitalism. Now, private equity, you got to find a private equity and put your money there. So, boom, boom. Fuck. You, Mr. Tim Robbins, who, a large number of people in the world know you, have heard of you at least. Even if they're not interested, they heard your name. Because the media has given you the megaphone to for people to hear your name, Mr. Bill Maher was the other day saying, I am considered the most trusted man in America. Well, you've been given a megaphone, and people at least know your name, Mr. Bill Maher. So, it's not let's just say, it's not a big pool. In a pool which Mr. Bill Maher is the most trusted, one of the most trusted sources, it's not a big pool, Mr. Bill Maher. You're pedaling around in a small pool of people which the large corporations have entrusted to give them a large megaphone to have their name heard. First, you gotta have your name heard, then you have to convince people to follow you or, trust you or whatever. First, you need to have a name. And large corporations don't trust anybody with a megaphone. As simple as that. I was suspended multiple times. I'm not a large person. I'm a talking ass. And I was suspended multiple times from Facebook. Fuck the corporate media. The Facebook suspended me 2-3 times before I gave up and left. Facebook. Forget about corporate media. You think Facebook suspends me from having a shitty ass page on their shitty ass website multiple times from talking out of order, because of talking out of order, talking not about things that the system does not accept to be talked about, opinions that the system doesn't accept for people to hold. And Mr. Bill Maher says something, this folks remove his megaphone, somebody else gives him a megaphone right off the bat. It's like, okay, I wish I had that kind of a, backing, Mr. Bill Maher, Mr. Tim Robbins, that, somebody would be willing, some big wig with a lot of money would be willing to give me a megaphone to, talk my ass off. But that's not the case, Facebook is not even willing to allow me a page on their website for talking out of line. So yes, Mr. Tim Robbins, you have been promoted by those people who want to promote you. Why? Because you encourage the worker bees to row faster, because that somehow benefits the people at the Wall Street. Another thing that you mentioned, you said that something like, yes, I am all for the guy in the Wall Street who, 38 X's my money, or 38% interest, pays me 38% interest on my money because he has, he knows magic. No, the magic that the guy in the Wall Street knows is increasing the productivity. Increasing productivity comes from either more consumption, how to advertise that these cocksuckers consume more, less labor cost, how I can cut my labor cost, how I can pay less people for the same profit. Either I have to cut their pay or automate their job and kick them out. And the other one, how I can, write out, be a defraud the rest of the society by charging them more for less, and defraud the government by not paying the fair share of the profits in order to, you know, educate the public. Fuck the public. I don't care about the public. I am Jamie Dimon. I make $38 million a year, and if the public education is going down the tube, that's not my problem. I got my private island. Here's to Mr. Jamie Dimon. Or I can, use Jeffrey Epstein's island whenever I want. Anyway, my point is this, Mr. Tim Robbins, you're blowing on a very, very old uh, trumpet, flute, you know, Pied Piper, you're taking the rats to the ocean and getting paid very handsomely in doing so. But what you're offering is not solutions. You're saying that, yeah, the guy in the Wall Street deserves to get paid so much because he's 38x my money because he knows magic. No, he's increasing productivity by making life more miserable for human society in general on Earth by, working them harder for less money, or just kicking them out altogether and automating their job and other shenanigans. But the point is this, that more and more, first automation took away all your physically demanding jobs. So 50% of your society who was physically apt now have to work for McDonald's for 27 years. And because they're only physically apt, then they're not very mentally apt. They cannot hold back, and they spend what they earn. They can't do delayed pressure just because, not that they don't know, they can't, because of that cognitive issue. That's not a crime. That's not something that should force them to live in poverty all their life because they don't have the cognitive G. That shouldn't be a crime. That shouldn't be the reason for them to wait for your food handout. So my point is this. I will cut this short. Mr. Tim Robbins, you're advocating for a system that may have had some kind of a use until now, but as we're going forward, even the cognitively demanding job, including your job of motivational speaker, can easily be given to an AI. And the AI knows a lot more than all of us, than you and me. You see what I'm saying? And the AI can bring about more examples from, all cultures of the whole world, from the whole written history that is available. So, you know, imagine that you don't have a job and your cognitive ability is not enough. Imagine one day that Tim Robbins' cognitive ability is not enough for Tim Robbins to be able to sell a t-shirt, much less himself as a very successful, wealthy individual that everybody should try to emulate. Imagine that your cognitive ability is so diminished in comparison to an AI that there is no job for Tim Robbins. Now what? Would you still be in favor of, yes, we have to work harder? Work at what? Something that you don't have the aptitude for? Like working, I don't know, what kind of work? No physical work, no cognitive work. Now what? Mr. Tim Robbins is past. Capitalism has done its job. It's motivated people and, done what it had to do force progress on human societies. But I think it's over. It now we should be talking about some kind of a, you know, a futuristic, more futuristic society in which, you know, everybody is cared for without having to wait for Tim Robbins to bring free food. No, everybody is cared for by the system, something like the Star Trek age. You know, you are part of the system, and the system cares for you, and the system educates you in what you have aptitude for. But there is no need for your productive activity because the machines are doing it, whether cognitive or physical. So humans have to be, you know, retrained to become more, you know, have in towards be pointed more towards arts and crafts and music and things that, you know, humans themselves draw pleasure from, and somehow be fed and cared for. The roll faster is past its prime. I don't think that's the answer, Mr. Robbins.